Since My 600-Pound Life first aired in 2012, 25 of Dr. Now's patients have died. And 3 of those deaths happened in 2026 alone. Some of them never turned things around. Others did everything right and still didn't make it. And a handful didn't even die from anything related to their weight. I'm going through every single one of them, starting with the most recent death, which I'm willing to bet most of you don't even know happened. Dolly Martinez, Season 10. Dolly was just 25 years old and 593 pounds when she appeared on the show in 2022. But beyond the weight, what stood out was how completely unprepared she was for Dr. Now's weight loss program. Many viewers considered her one of the most immature patients the show had ever seen. She was dealing with an abusive husband, a rocky relationship with her mother, and ended up in a homeless shelter where she got engaged to a man she'd known for just 6 weeks.
She has moved in and out of my home, in and out on her 3.5-year-old daughter. I told her if she did this again, that's it.
With her life that unstable, Dr. Now never approved of her surgery. She left the program having lost only 40 pounds in nearly a year. After filming, Dolly went almost completely silent with barely any updates to show how she was doing. Then on April 11th, 2026, her sister Lindsay broke the news on Facebook. She wrote, "It is with a heavy heart that I share the passing of my beautiful sister Dolly. While our hearts are broken here, I find comfort in knowing she is now reunited with our dad in heaven." Dolly had passed away at just 30 years old. Her mother later confirmed the cause was congestive heart failure. She'd been hospitalized just 2 weeks earlier with fluid in her heart and lungs and put into a medically induced coma. Lee Sutton, Season 6. Before joining the program, Lee had already been staying at a bariatric rehabilitation facility trying to get his weight under control. That's also where he met Renee, a fellow patient whom he fell in love with. And instead of keeping each other accountable, they enabled each other. So they decided to join Dr. Now's program together in 2018. On the show, Lee's anger was just as big of a problem as his weight.
Destructing.
I'm done with this conversation. Go to her.
No, we're gonna finish with you.
No, we're not finishing with me. You're making me mad.
Sit down right there.
You just
Sit down right over there.
No,
Wait, sit down.
Okay,
let go of me, Renee.
all right, this is completely unacceptable.
He was verbally and physically abusive to Renee and openly hostile to Dr. Now, who eventually sent him to a therapist. After filming, things didn't improve much. He cheated on Renee, and the relationship fell apart. They eventually found love again and remarried in October 2024. But on January 29, 2026, Lee passed away at 51. No official cause was given. Charity Pierce, Season 3. By the time Charity walked into Dr. Now's clinic in 2015, her body was already in crisis. At 780 pounds and 39 years old, she had severe lymphedema, recurring infections, and doctors who were running out of ways to keep her alive. Weight loss surgery was her only hope for survival. Charity eventually delivered. Over 5 years, Charity lost more than 500 pounds, putting her among the most successful weight loss transformations the show has ever seen.
Now I have my life back and a chance at the future I want. As long as I stay focused and work hard to prove to Charlie and myself that I can do this and make it to where I set out to be.
But in 2019, she revealed she had kidney cancer. She had the kidney removed in early 2020 and then went completely silent on social media after that. For years, nobody really knew what was happening with her. Then in January 2026, her daughter Charlie Jo broke the news on Facebook. She wrote, "I wasn't going to post about this, but the calling and texting is making my head feel like it's on fire. Almost all immediate family knows, so my mom passed away today." She's up with her mama and brother and sister, and she's finally at peace. Charity had spent her final 2 months in hospice care, battling lymphedema and fluid buildup in her lungs. She passed away early on the morning of January 27th at 50 years old. Pauline Potter, Season 3. In 2012, Guinness World Records officially recognized Pauline as the heaviest living woman at close to 700 pounds. But holding that title wasn't something Pauline was proud of. Her son Dylan had put his whole life aside just to take care of her, and she'd reached the point where she couldn't keep letting that happen. Once in Dr. Now's program in 2015, she wasn't exactly cooperative. She gained weight under Dr. Now's care, developed a painkiller addiction, and ended up in hospital with a burst ulcer and sepsis. But that near-death experience was the wake-up call that finally stuck. She followed the program, lost 300 pounds, and by early 2020s, looked completely transformed. But in January 2025, Pauline was involved in a serious car accident. For months, she fought complications from it. But in November that same year, fans were shocked by a post made by Dylan on her YouTube channel.
Unfortunately, my mom has passed away this past Thursday on Thanksgiving. We were driving early in the morning. It was still dark outside. We were driving on a dark 2-lane highway, and there was a truck and trailer that was stopped in the middle of the road. And we did not see it because they didn't have any lights on.
Pauline's body couldn't recover from the accident. By that time, she was 62. After everything she'd survived, it was a car accident that took her. Patrick Macon, season 11. When his father died, Patrick turned to food. That's really where it all started. And by the time he was on the show in 2022, the damage was already serious. Patrick weighed 656 pounds. On the show, Patrick struggled. He gained weight, made excuses, and frustrated Dr. Now more than once. But he eventually turned it around, got his surgery, and finished his first year on the program at 531 pounds.
I've been dieting, exercising. I'm getting more active. I feel like I've lost enough weight. I can take them camping now.
After filming Wrapped, Patrick basically disappeared from social media. Fans who had followed his journey were left with no updates and no explanation for the silence. Then in February 2023, his wife Amanda revealed why. Patrick had been diagnosed with gallbladder cancer. What followed was a 2-year battle that his body, already worn down from years of extreme obesity, couldn't win. Sadly, on September 17, 2025, Patrick Macon passed away at 46. Lupe Samano, season 4. Lupe came onto the show in 2016 at 39 years old, weighing 642 pounds. She hadn't walked in years. Doctors had already performed a tracheostomy because the fat around her neck was literally suffocating her. She was in bad shape long before they started filming.
Things are so hard for me. I've lost motivation to do anything for myself. And my body's starting to break down. My weight is taking a toll on my heart, my kidneys, my liver, my legs, everything. I'm in pain and I feel helpless, worthless.
On the show, she actually did the work. She lost the weight, got surgery, got skin removal, and by the end looked like a completely different person. She even found a new partner after leaving her enabler husband Gilbert behind. For a while, it genuinely seemed like Lupe had turned things around. Then her new partner Andrew died in early 2019. And 6 years later, in September 2025, her sisters confirmed that Lupe had passed away as well. No cause of death was ever officially given. She was 50 years old. Dottie Perkins, season 4. Dottie was 34 years old and 641 pounds when she appeared on the show in 2016. What made her story different from most was that she had 2 kids depending on her. And one of them, Daniel, had cerebral palsy and needed round-the-clock care. That was her motivation for calling Dr. Now in the first place.
I'm sorry. Just give Mom a minute.
But even though I am as overweight as I am, I have to get up every day because I have 2 kids that depend on me.
I'm okay.
Daniel, who is 12 and has cerebral palsy, and Landon, who is 1. I have to be here to take care of these boys. They need their mama.
But during filming, her son Daniel passed away. For most people with food addiction, a devastating loss like that could easily cause a relapse. But Dottie used it as fuel. Her sons were the whole reason she'd walked through that door in the first place. She lost 149 pounds, got her surgery, and eventually got her weight down to under 300 pounds. But the progress didn't hold. After filming, her health began to decline. She lost the ability to walk. Then came heart failure. By 2024, things had gotten so bad that she was posting on Facebook asking strangers for help buying food for her and her son. Barely a year later, in June 2025, Dottie passed away at 44. LaTanya Patain, season 11. LaTanya weighed 632 pounds when she first appeared on the show in 2022. She'd already tried Dr. Now's weight loss program once before, prior to My 600-Pound Life, but had gained 150 pounds since then. And unfortunately, not much had changed the second time around. LaTanya gained weight at almost every weigh-in, complained about hospital food, and eventually got kicked off the program entirely.
There is nothing more I can do for you. If you want to wake up and change your eating habit and lose at least 60 pounds to show me that, then let me know. Because there is no point in you coming down here anymore.
By February 2025, her health had collapsed. She'd been bedridden since June 2024 and had created a GoFundMe saying she was now at 740 pounds. But just months later, on May 17, 2025, LaTanya died of a heart attack in Louisiana. She was only 40 years old, and her dreams of getting married and starting a family died with her. Vianney Rodriguez, Season 7. When Vianney joined the show in 2019, she wasn't alone. Her husband Alan came with her. Food was how they met, and it was how they bonded. And that was the problem, because they constantly enabled each other. Vianney did get approved for surgery after losing a significant amount of weight, but her surgery didn't go as planned. Her heart stopped briefly on the table, and doctors were forced to stop the procedure.
I don't feel calls.
We need to pump on the chest.
CPR, guys, go. I need an arm like stat.
Happy's going in.
Chest compression.
All right.
You didn't get the operation because your heart stopped for a few seconds, okay?
The operation.
All right, you're gonna be okay.
After that, Vianney never quite recovered mentally. Depression set in, then an infection, then the weight started coming back. Meanwhile, Alan kept going, and that gap between them eventually tore the marriage apart.
We didn't really go anywhere. Like, it was more like stay at home and have like movie dates and dinner dates and things like that. But I love what we used to do. You know, we were always together.
Just months after that divorce court appearance in November 2023, Vianney passed away at age 41 due to complications from pneumonia following COVID-19. Vianney and Alan's story goes a lot deeper than what I covered here. I did a full breakdown of their toxic relationship, which you can check out after this video. And if you love my 600-pound life as much as I do, subscribe to my channel and give this video a hype. Your hype really helps. Paul McNeil, Season 10. This was a man who could barely catch his breath after 10 feet, had lymphedema so bad his legs were permanently swollen, and was living in a one-bedroom apartment with his mother sleeping on the couch. At 757 pounds, most doctors would have written Paul off, but Dr. Now didn't, and that helped Paul believe in himself too. He worked hard, and in 2021 he got approved for surgery, dropped all the way down to the 300s, and even proposed to his girlfriend Jennifer. Then in September 2023, on his way to work, Paul was tragically killed in a car accident, just 2 months before his wedding. Paul was often named as a fan favorite, thanks to his perseverance and positive attitude throughout his weight loss journey. Larry Myers Jr., Season 10. Most people found Larry before they even watched his episode.
Buttermilk biscuits.
I enjoy it.
That clip of him singing to his food on the show went viral, and that earned him his nickname, Mr. Buttermilk Biscuits. By the time Larry walked into Dr. Now's office in 2021, he had already undergone weight loss surgery, dropping from 940 pounds to around 300.
I had a sleeve, I had a hernia operation like close to 15, 16 years ago.
But he had regained hundreds of pounds and was hoping for a second chance. He eventually lost over 100 pounds during 12 months, but it wasn't enough to qualify for surgery. In the years that followed, Larry stayed active on social media, sharing clips from his time on the show and even released his own book. Then on June 10th, 2023, 3 days after his 49th birthday, Larry died of a heart attack at his home in Houston. He always knew the buttermilk biscuits might be his downfall, but at least he had a sense of humor about it. Angela Gutierrez, Season 7. Angela Gutierrez is one of the more controversial patients on my 600-pound life, thanks to her non-committal attitude towards her own weight loss journey. In 2019, she weighed over 600 pounds, had already had weight loss surgery before, and still couldn't keep the weight off. On the show, she missed appointment after appointment, ignored Dr. Now's calls for weeks, and when she finally did speak with him, she had a different excuse every time.
So we have a bit of an issue again. Because you missed your appointment again, saying you were sick, but turned out you weren't. You haven't been getting back to us, and you've been avoiding my calls, making excuses, and lying to us.
Don't look like you have lost any weight, so you keep making excuses and not coming down here because you're not serious about it.
Okay, you say I don't look like I've lost any weight, but I feel like I've lost a lot of weight.
Eventually, Angela quit the program herself, claiming she didn't need Dr. Now and would lose the weight on her own at home. But by March 21st, 2023, Angela passed away at 49. Her obituary didn't mention a cause of death, but her last Facebook post, posted just days before she died, hinted at respiratory failure. Destiny Lachey, Season 7. Destiny was placed in foster care as a baby, weighed 250 pounds by the time she was 9, faced discrimination when she came out as gay, and lost her brother before coming onto the show. Food was how she coped with all of it.
I think I have a lot of emotional eating problems.
Such as what?
Well, I've been through a lot being transgender and gay, and being picked on a lot, and just growing up, just struggling and just not being able to find a good job and stuff. And the loss of my brother is where I really picked up a lot of weight.
But from her first appointment with Dr. Now in 2018, Destiny proved she was serious. Over the next 4 years, she lost over 500 pounds. But her mental health never got the same attention as her weight, and behind her inspiring posts and the weight loss numbers, she was falling apart. In 2020, Destiny sued the production company behind My 600 Pound Life, claiming they exploited her while she was grieving her brother's death. In February 2022, Destiny's brother announced on Facebook that she'd passed away. She was only 30 years old and had turned her life around. No official cause was given, but based on her last post and those closest to her, it is believed that her death might have been self-inflicted. Laura Ann Perez, Season 3. Laura's story is one of the most remarkable on this entire list. In 2015, she weighed over 600 pounds, was hooked up to an oxygen tank, and had a husband who enabled her sweet tooth instead of helping her to fight it.
Some of the things I do for her may not be good for her, like the sweets and other stuff, but she means the world to me. I love my wife a lot.
Well, it's hard to tell her no because I love her.
My mom doesn't know about this.
Now I'm around 600 pounds and I can't do anything anymore.
And yet somehow she turned it all around, getting all the way down to 183 pounds. But none of it came without a fight. At one point during her journey, complications from her gastric sleeve surgery left her with pneumonia and landed her in the ICU. And on top of that, the strain of everything took a toll on her marriage with her husband, Joey.
I told him I wanted to go to beauty school, and he got really upset. But now that I can go out, I don't want to just stay home all day. I'm not 600 pounds anymore, so I don't need to be trapped. But it's gotten so bad that I don't think that there's a whole lot of hope for us right now. What do you see in our future?
What do you see in the future?
Nothing.
After that, she continued updating fans on Facebook throughout 2020. But sadly, despite all of her progress, Laura passed away on November 17, 2021 at the age of 48. Her cause of death has never been publicly disclosed, and the family has kept details private. Ashley Randall, Season 1. Ashley was one of the youngest patients on the show when she first appeared in Season 1. She grew up with an abusive mother and turned to food as a way to cope. That pattern followed her all the way into adulthood. She weighed over 600 pounds at the start of her journey and actually made real progress. She ended up losing over 400 pounds and qualified for skin removal surgery on her legs. Things were looking promising. After the show, Ashley went back to school to finish her degree, working towards her dream of opening her own daycare. She was finally building the life she always wanted. But sadly, in October 2021, her body gave out. Ashley died at 40 years old from sepsis after a severe infection progressed into pneumonia. Gina Crassley, Season 8. Gina Crassley came onto the show in 2020 weighing over 650 pounds. She grew up in an abusive household, turned to food for comfort, and by the time she was 10 years old, she already weighed 150 pounds. Her whole family was overweight, and they all enabled each other. On the show, Dr. Now approved her for surgery after reaching her weight loss goal. But when she came in for the procedure, she had gained 13 pounds.
So I'm canceling your surgery, and we're not moving ahead with that today.
But after the cameras stopped rolling, Gina took matters into her own hands and lost over 100 pounds. And she didn't stop there. Gina took to TikTok, sharing her weight loss journey and posting dance videos under the mantra, "Dancing has no size limit." It went viral and quickly built a following of over 200,000 people. Then in August 2021, fans were met with tragic news. Her sister announced that Gina had passed away at just 30 years old. Her cause of death was not publicly released. Renee Byron, Season 6. After discovering there were people online who would pay to watch her eat, Renee supported her family by becoming a feeding fetish model. But the amount of food she ate soon led to health issues and her weight ballooning to 631 pounds. So when Renee decided to make the trip to see Dr. Now in 2017, things got complicated fast when she began struggling to breathe.
I don't know, I just feel like I can't get enough air, and I'm feeling lightheaded.
Are you in your car?
Yes, I'm in the car. I'm trying to get to Houston. I think we're like 30 miles out. I just feel like I need a breathing treatment or something to help me get some air in me. That's what.
Okay, instead of coming to clinic, you need to go to St. Joseph Hospital. I'll let them know that you're coming so they can get you in and find out what's going on. And then I'll be there shortly.
Okay.
Not exactly the start anyone hopes for, but from there, things actually turned around. She qualified for surgery and lost 250 pounds on the show. Then in early 2019, Renee was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare condition that attacks the nerves and, in serious cases, causes full paralysis. She fought it for 2 long years, but in May 2021, Renee passed away at age 56. No official cause was ever confirmed, but most people who follow her story believe the Guillain-Barré took her. Colisa McMillan, Season 8. Colisa had already survived a heart attack by the time she met Dr. Now in 2019. She was 500 pounds at the time, and doctors couldn't even operate on her because she was too heavy. She called her own heart a ticking time bomb.
I've allowed food to waste my life. Just the hunger and the want and the crave. It's taken over my life, and I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted of this life. Living like this is not living.
But despite her fragile heart, Dr. Now approved her for surgery before she even hit her weight loss goal. He feared that waiting any longer would put her at risk of a life-threatening intestinal blockage. She ultimately lost 150 pounds by the end of the episode, but on September 22nd, 2020, her Facebook support page posted an update that no one expected. Colisa had health problems from her surgery, and it ended her life. Apparently, My 600-Pound Life had only told half the story. According to a Facebook post from her niece Blair, who featured alongside her aunt in several scenes from the episode, immediately after surgery, a suture popped and Colisa hemorrhaged. Dr. Now performed emergency surgery to repair it, but she never fully recovered. She spent months on a ventilator in the ICU, developed a severe bed sore, a UTI, became septic, and her kidneys were failing. Her condition worsened, and she eventually passed away. What aired on her episode and what her niece Blair shared on Facebook tell 2 completely different stories. Do you think the show knew exactly what happened and chose not to show it? Tell us what you think in the comments. James King, Season 5. Widely considered one of the most frustrating patients to ever appear on My 600-Pound Life, James K. weighed 791 pounds and was completely bedridden, fully dependent on his girlfriend and kids for everything. And I mean everything.
I just can't do anything for myself anymore. So I got to depend completely on my girlfriend Lisa or my daughter Bailey to help me out.
It breaks my heart to see that James is trapped in a bed and can't do the things that he loves to do.
James's father even took out a second mortgage on his house so his son could travel from Kentucky to Houston to see Dr. Now. That's how desperate things were. But once James started Dr. Now's program, he refused to cooperate. He denied having an eating problem, his girlfriend kept sneaking him food in the hospital, and his weight actually climbed to 840 pounds while they were filming the show. Dr. Now eventually kicked him out of the program. James continued with his bad eating habits, and his body continued paying the price for it. To the surprise of no one, in April 2020, James died of organ failure at just 49 years old. Sean Milligan, Season 4. Sean was only 26 years old when he first appeared on My 600-Pound Life in 2016. And to this day, he still holds the title of the heaviest patient ever, with his weight peaking at just over 1,000 pounds. His weight problems started after a leg surgery in high school left him bedridden, and a difficult relationship with his father didn't help the situation. He turned to food to cope, and things spiraled fast. During filming, Sean managed to lose 400 pounds, a genuine achievement. But after moving back in with his enabling mother, the habits crept back. Then in 2017, his mother died of kidney failure. Sean never really recovered from losing her, and his weight climbed back up, undoing months of progress. In February 2019, Sean's struggle came to a heartbreaking conclusion when his weight became too much for his organs to handle.
I'm very sad to say that earlier today, Sean Milliken passed away. Over the past few years, we had worked with him to try to get his weight down, but Sean has consistently regained any weight we helped him to lose.
Kelly Mason, Season 7. Kelly weighed 700 pounds by the time she joined Dr. Now's program in 2018. Every step she took was torture. She had diabetes, bed clots, high blood pressure, arthritis, thyroid issues, and had recently been hospitalized for heart failure. Dr. Now listed it all out in their first meetup.
Reflux, thyroid problem, arthritis,
and the list goes on.
I had congestive heart failure, so I was having really bad shorter of breath and swelling.
Despite all her health conditions, Kelly got to work immediately, and she might have been one of the hardest working patients ever to appear on the show. She lost over 200 pounds to qualify for weight loss surgery, then lost another 100 pounds after. But just as things were finally starting to fall into place, Dr. Now received a devastating call.
I just received a call from a medical examiner to inform me that late last night it appears Kelly's heart gave out. So I'm very saddened to hear this news. At Kelly's last appointment with me a few weeks ago, her weight loss was on track. So this is not a result of her starting to go back to her old habits. She was working hard and doing what she needed. But despite that, the damage to her heart up to this point was just too severe.
In February 2019, just 2 weeks after her final checkup with Dr. Now, Kelly died of cardiac arrest in her sleep. Fans were completely heartbroken. Kelly was one of those people you just couldn't help rooting for, not just as a patient on the show, but as a person. To see Kelly's full story, click the link below. Lisa Fleming, Season 6. Lisa is one of the most talked about patients in the show's history, and not for the best reasons. She weighed 700 pounds and enlisted her daughter and young grandson to take care of her. The wake-up call for Lisa came when she found maggots growing in the folds of her skin. She realized that if she didn't do anything about her weight, she wouldn't be around for long. But getting to Dr. Now wasn't an easy task. It took 7 paramedics to get Lisa Fleming out of her Texas home. And despite Dr. Now admitting her to hospital and putting her on a strict controlled diet, she struggled to follow through.
Now who's eating that?
He was eating them because
How did they end up in your bed then?
He was laying right there because I was crying. I was just morning.
Lisa, stop it. This is the junk you've been eating. This is why you're not losing any weight. Herbert is sneaking in junk food for you.
Dr. Now eventually had no choice but to dismiss her from the program. What's shocking is how fast it all ended. Lisa's episode aired in February 2018. By August of the same year, her daughter posted on Facebook that Lisa had passed away after battling previous health struggles. No official cause of death was ever released. James L.B. Bonner, Season 6. L.B. was one of the most liked patients ever on the show. Positive, grateful, and genuinely determined. In 2017, he weighed 642 pounds, had already lost his right leg below the knee in a quad biking accident, and still came with more fight in him than most people on this show ever did. He lost over 400 pounds, got a new prosthetic leg, and was getting his life together. By all accounts, things were looking up.
I'm exhausted, but that was awesome. I never thought I'd be able to do that again. I'm amazed at how much my life has changed for the better.
But LB was struggling more than he ever let on. In May 2018, he posted a cryptic message on Facebook. It read, "I just want to say thank you to everyone who's shown me love and support throughout my journey. I've realized a few things over the last few days, and it's time that I face my demons head on. Please don't ever let people you care about not know how you feel." A few weeks later, on June 2nd, 2018, LB was found with a wound to the head near his home in Lexington. He was 30 years old. His death was ruled a suicide. Robert Buchel, Season 6. Robert came on to My 600 Pound Life with not just a food addiction, but a painkiller addiction too. In early 2017, he weighed 842 pounds and was heavily dependent on pain meds just to get through the day.
So what is with this Dilaudid medicine that you've been hooked on?
Only for the extreme pain in my leg. And I try to take it as least as possible. When I walk or when I do exercises, then that really puts pressure on.
Well, I'm very concerned about all the pain medication you own. So I'm admitting you to the hospital to start you on a 1,200 calorie a day diet. But we also are going to cut you off from the painkillers.
But under Dr. Now's guidance, Robert managed to shed over 340 pounds. The weight was coming down, and for the first time, so was his dependence on the painkillers. But before the cameras even stopped rolling, everything fell apart.
Last night, I was getting ready to go, and he says, please don't leave me tonight. I don't feel good. I want somebody here with me. So we were sitting there, and he was looking at me, and he says, I just want to let you know. He says, I don't think I'm going to make it through tonight. His eyes just went black. That was it.
In November 2017, Robert died of a heart attack at just 41 years old during the filming of his episode. Henry Foots, Season 1. Henry was the kind of guy you couldn't help rooting for. In 2004, he weighed nearly 750 pounds, which had already cost him his job as a commercial bus driver. His ability to stay positive through such a challenging process made viewers instantly love him. But Henry's journey wasn't easy.
My heart stopped beating. I actually died.
That's all right, like. We're just like having an out-of-body experience. If that was to like take me to heaven, I wasn't ready for it. Because there's so much going on here I haven't did yet.
He flatlined on the operating table during one of his surgeries, lost his father along the way, and still managed to keep going. Henry ultimately lost more than 400 pounds over the course of 7 years, enough to get back behind the wheel. But in 2012, Henry lost control of a shuttle bus he was driving and tragically killed a woman on the street. He survived the crash, but a year later in May 2013, Henry was dead at age 54. Whether his death was connected to the crash or his weight is still a mystery. His official cause of death was never released. If you know more than I do, please chime in the comments. Almost every single one of these people was already critically ill before they started filming. Most of them needed therapy just as much as they needed surgery. Some got it, some didn't. But they'll all be remembered by the fans of My 600-Pound Life, for better and for worse. Speaking of which, did you know that some patients actually sued the show? We dove deep into the legal crevices of the internet to find out who claimed what and why, and how it all went down in the end. Click the video on your screen to watch that one now. It's a doozy.